welcome to episode 35 of Women, Sex, God, Power. On today's very important episode, we're exploring the topic of women who are choosing not to partner with men, not to be in traditional relationships, not to have children, and all of the various ways that society loves to gaslight women into settling down and following a traditional, conventional path entirely for the benefit of men and for the purpose of upholding the patriarchal structures as we know it. Before I get into this episode, I would like to mention that I'm so grateful for everyone who has been tuning in and listening consistently to what I provide here. I'm sure that you've realized by now that this is not entertaining content. Every single episode that I do on here is a transmission, it's an activation, and it is done with the intention of awakening your power as a woman, helping you come into a deeper relationship with your power, your voice, your ability to advocate for your needs, to go after your dreams, and to help you fully liberate yourself from whatever societal or cultural conditioning you may have taken on. So the purpose of each episode is to help you reconstruct your psyche from the roots up, not to entertain, but to transform, to activate, to awaken, to help alchemize whatever energies within you need shifting or awakening so that you can start to make real changes in your life. That's the first thing. The second thing is, if you are a regular listener of this podcast, can I please ask you to follow me on this Spotify podcast app so that you get updated every single time I release a new episode. Why is this so important? Well, for me, it just means a lot for me, first of all, to see that there is a community of people who are engaging and willing to support. The growth of this platform and this community in general is very important to me because the more of you who are listening, the more likely it is that this podcast is going to reach other people who also need the content, because that's how the algorithm works. So every single time you click the follow button on this app, or every single time you click save on an episode, it tells the algorithm that this podcast is worth pushing out to more people. So please do remember to follow me on the app. Thank you so much. So on today's episode, we're exploring the absolute obsession that society has with pressuring women into settling down, into finding a partner, into having children. Obviously, there is a growing trend of women, thank fucking goddess, who no longer want that and are really questioning what it is that they want for their existence, what they need to feel truly fulfilled outside of those societal structures of what they have been told to do, of what women have been told to do for thousands of years. So one of the really common sentiments that men and society use to pressurize women is to gaslight them and shame them for choosing themselves, for putting themselves first, for making themselves a priority, for centering their ambitions, their career, their own desires, their desire for freedom, adventure, financial autonomy, all of the things that we know that men are encouraged to pursue. And one of the really common tactics that men use when it comes to this topic of women decentering men and children is telling women that they're self-serving and selfish. It's a really common narrative that you hear heterosexual men and also male-centered women use to make women feel guilty and ashamed and self-doubting and question their choices when it comes to the decision to not have children and not partner with a man. And telling you that you're selfish and self-serving for choosing not to have children or not to be in a relationship, the aim of this is completely and entirely to make you feel guilty and wrong, that you are making the wrong decision, that you're going to ruin your life, you're going to regret it in the future. All of the scarcity, fear-mongering tactics that we have seen men and male-centered women regurgitate over and over again. And as you know, it's never an original counter-argument. There's never anything original or remotely intelligent about the counter-argument that is presented when it comes to women who are choosing not to have children or not to settle down. It's always the same rhetoric. You're selfish, you're self-centered, you're going to regret it in the future. Who's going to take care of you when you're older? It's always the same shit. Because men who are terrified of living an existence in which women and feminine energy is something that they have absolutely zero access to, and male-centered women who are terrified of being confronted by the reality that their choice to partner with a man and bear his children and have a traditional life where she barely has any freedom or any autonomy to make her own decisions, what both of these people have in common is that they are terrified of their life choices. They're terrified of their life choices, and they're terrified of the lack of power. Okay, this is really the commonality between male-centered women in relationships with abusive, shitty, low-caliber men and men who are single and will never get access to women or feminine energy. They are terrified of the lack of power and lack of autonomy that they have in their own life. And the woman who is choosing not to partner with a man and not to have children, she is the ultimate symbol of autonomy and power, because she gets to decide in every area of her existence how she's going to exist. She doesn't have to consider other people's needs. She doesn't have to prioritize the well-being of a man over her own career choices, over her own ambition. She doesn't have to consider any of those things. So she is the ultimate symbol of power and autonomy, and it is a reflection and a mirror, a deeply triggering mirror, towards male-centered women and men who are single, who feel completely deprived and powerless because of their lack of either freedom or their lack of intimacy. But specifically in the case of men, their lack of ability to plug into feminine energy, to plug into women and harvest feminine energy for their own gain. And the thing about this narrative when it comes to women, single women or childless women choosing not to pursue a traditional conventional life path, somehow missing out. When you ask people who are in a relationship or women who have children, what exactly is it that you as a childless woman are missing out on? They themselves cannot properly articulate what it is that the experience of being in a relationship or having children gives them that is more profound or more valuable than the woman who is choosing to pursue her ambitions and her creative career. Everybody finds their fulfillment and their sense of purpose and meaning through a different avenue and through a different path. We can't tell women that one path is more fulfilling than the other. We can't tell women that having children is the ultimate form of fulfillment, that being in relationship with a man is the ultimate form of fulfillment. And we also know that the data and the statistics say quite the opposite on that single women are actually the happiest demographic. Single childless women are the happiest demographic on earth. But we can't tell women that one path is more fulfilling than the other, because that's simply not true. Especially if you're a woman that has a huge amount of creative life force and ideas and brilliance and genius, and you're desiring to actualize that in the world. Partnering with a man and having an existence where you now have to scatter your energy left, right, and center between children, between your relationship, between your creative ambitions. For many women, that is the absolute definition of hell. I know for myself, that is my definition of hell. I don't like children. They're beautiful and they're very, very sweet and cute, some of them. But I personally don't like being around children. I just don't. I am not a motherly type. I do not have the patience for it. I do not have a tolerance for it. And I don't want to pour my energy into nurturing a child. And I echo the sentiments of many, many other women when I say that. It feels deeply unfulfilling. And across centuries of women existing on Earth, there have always been women who have taken on the role of rearing and nurturing children, and women who have taken on the role of being the leaders, the educators, the queens that build empires, that initiate change in the societal structure, that contribute towards the evolution of society. Now, I'm not claiming that you can't do all of that when you have children and when you have a partner, but this idea also that women can just do it all is also another lie. It's another lie that is being fed to very naive young girls that they can have it all, that they can have a supportive husband, that they can have the career, they can have the creative career. And it's a very deceitful narrative to feed to young women who need to go off and actually spend the time developing their sense of self and their identity and their values and their core needs and their expectations, and take the time to explore enough avenues. Experiment with your hobbies, experiment with the type of career that you want as well. Take the time to do all of these things so that you get to know what your definition, what your ultimate form of fulfillment actually looks like. Nobody outside of you can tell you what that is. Nobody, no one, not your parents, not your friends, not your partner. You have to spend the time exploring different avenues, traveling, failing, starting a business, starting multiple businesses to get a sense of what it is that really brings you fulfillment before you choose to maybe go off and have a monogamous relationship or make certain commitments that require you then to pour your energy into other people, which I would highly recommend you do not do. But ultimately, the idea that we shame women for wanting to live life for their own benefit should actually illuminate how incredibly selfish and self-centered and untrustworthy the vast majority of men actually are. Men are upset when you become selfish and self-serving because it switches up the power dynamic. The way that the power dynamics have worked within our society have enabled men to leverage power through women, and specifically the women that they partner with. This power dynamic has consisted of men being selfish and doing everything in their power to further their own career and their own ambitions at the detriment of women who were the givers, who were the nurturers, the stay-at-home wives, the extension of a man's ego, the object, the adornment, an asset to his existence that he could choose to plug into and make use of whenever he required it for the development of his own ambitions and his own career. Okay? If you don't know already, if you're a young woman and you're listening to this, the vast majority of successful men on this earth would not be successful if they hadn't had supportive, giving, overgiving wives, nurturing wives who acted as the power source that these men could plug into and take from and feed off of to sustain themselves and sustain their career in this earthly realm. Women act as the spiritual energy source providers that fuel men to help them pursue and manifest and build their abundance in the real world. Why would you give that power away to a man when you can use it for your own financial autonomy, for your own creative actualization, for your own freedom and benefit? Because up until now, this is what the power dynamic has been. And women have been sold also this other very frustrating narrative. The highest form of abundance that you can receive in this world is money. So partner with a man or find men that you can develop a relationship with who will in return provide you with financial autonomy. This is not true. The ultimate form of abundance is not money. The ultimate form of abundance is feminine energy. Everything is created from feminine energy. And men know this, which is why they're so obsessed with controlling women. It's why they've always been so obsessed with controlling women, because they need to harvest that energy. They need to harvest that energy for their own gain. So this should really leave you questioning, really leave you thinking about, okay, if that energy is the highest form, the most exalted and most divine and powerful form of creative and manifestation energy that can be used to create anything I desire, why would I go through a man to create my abundance when I am the abundance? Now that more women are choosing to turn around and be selfish and self-accommodating, men are losing their grip on society and on reality as it has been constructed up until now, because they no longer have the power that they once had to leverage, because that power is leveraged through partnering with a woman, and even more specifically through the subservience of women. Through the women who are willing to serve them, through the women who are trapped and ensnared within this abhorrent paradigm of religious propaganda and dogma, women who have had their consciousness literally hijacked and enslaved by patriarchal religious propaganda, who think that they need to go through men to be of service to God, who think that everything that they are doing in their existence is dictated by a male god that is watching over them and either rewarding them or punishing them. But when women turn around and say, I am no longer making my energy available to be harvested and used for a man's gain, it completely shifts the power dynamic. And that is why men and society have to make you feel ashamed and wrong and guilty and self-doubting for centering yourself. They have to. Because if every woman on the planet turned around tomorrow and started saying, I'm going to center myself and my own well-being, the world of men would completely crumble and collapse. I really want you to understand this right now. The only reason why we're still seeing the type of power structure that we're seeing in the world, we can't put all of the blame on men. We have to also put the blame on male-centered women, because there are plenty of women that want to uphold that still, who believe that the patriarchal structures, men in leadership, male politicians, men being the primary source of abundance, there are plenty of women who are still upholding that. And if every woman stepped back and said, I'm centering myself, I don't need a man, then society would collapse and crumble as we know it. It would completely disintegrate. When feminine energy is no longer available as a free resource, watch how quickly the world of men falls apart. I would also like to point out here that men make money in order to get access to feminine energy. Women make money so that they can exist without men. The other thing that I'd like you to question is what exactly is wrong with living solely for yourself as a woman? What is wrong with that? Well, the answer is nothing. There's nothing wrong with it. It just means that being a self-centered woman doesn't benefit anyone around you. When you're selfish and you're protective with your time and your energy, it doesn't benefit anyone, does it? Have you noticed how women who focus on their own career and ambitions tend to have the least friends and the least people around them? Why do you think that is? Because they've made it abundantly clear to everyone who used to be around them. At some point, they made it abundantly clear that they are no longer making their energy available to anyone or anything except their own ambitions and their own creative aspirations. And then everyone decided to fuck off as a result. Many, many people want to use you. I cannot tell you how many people in my life, probably everyone in my life actually, that I've ever encountered has attempted to plug into me and use my energy because they're perfectly aware of how powerful I am, because they're perfectly aware of what they can manifest through me. And never, never, ever in my existence, never in my existence when I have cut people out have I gone, oh, I really miss the contact that I used to have with that person. Never! But so many of those people, I would say very confidently about 98% of the people that I've cut out have all attempted to try and find their way back into my life, because there are so many benefits to befriending a woman like me. There are so many benefits, and I know that. I know that because I know what my energy can create. I know how to use my energy to manifest with intention, to manifest consciously. I know how to use my sexual life force to build and create with intention. So I won't let anybody else access that unless they're paying me a lot of money. So a self-centered woman is a woman who cannot be used as a resource. And in a world that wants to do its absolute utmost to train as many girls and as many women to become a resource for the benefit of others and especially men, a wide open source of abundance that everyone else can use for their own benefit. Of course, you putting yourself first is going to make people angry. And the only people that it really truly offends are those people who are trying to use your energy, okay? Nobody who is truly good for you as a woman is going to get angry when you choose to step back and prioritize yourself. Those are the people that are good for you. Those are the people that you want in your reality, when you can say, I'm going to take, a week out for myself, or a month, or maybe 4. I'm going to go away for the next 4 months and be in my creative cocoon, and I won't be available. It's only the people who are seeking to use you that are going to get angry. I want the younger demographic of women listening to this to understand that men have to build their status through you. A man creates his legacy through the woman that he partners with. Without a woman's life force, a man's existence becomes meaningless. There are exceptions to this, of course, men who are conscious and on the spiritual path and are serving their community and are self-sustaining individuals. But for the vast majority of men, their life becomes meaningless when they don't have a woman to plug into. And of course, because women are the bringers and bearers of life. And not only are they the bringers of life, they are also the force and the source in a man's life that nourishes him, that enriches every area of his existence, that carries his emotional burdens for him. Okay? Women are the emotional shock absorbers of men and the collective. This is one of the reasons also why I don't make myself visible in a big way online, on social media, why I'm not churning out video content all the time, because I'm absorbing the collective energy every single day of my existence, having to transmute it and alchemize it and then use whatever insights and information I've gained to sit down and transmit these messages. And it takes an awful lot of energy. So especially for a woman who's very highly sensitive and very spiritually conscious and open and acts as a portal and a channel. Imagine partnering with a man and having to constantly alchemize his dense, yucky, sticky, angry energy on behalf of him. This is also why women have so many chronic health issues, because they are the shock absorbers of their family, of men, of their children, of the collective. You are bearing so much in your energy field. So you've got to be incredibly discerning of who you are letting in. The second term that we hear a lot when it comes to the gaslighting of women to pressure them to settle with a man and have children is that women are nurturers. Women are inherently, innately designed by nature to nurture men, to nurture children, to nurture the people around them. Yes, women are nurturers, but women are nurturers of their health, their dreams, their ambitions, their creative projects, their intellect, their spiritual development, their community, their inner world as a whole, their education. Did I already say your ambitions? Yes, your ambitions. Women are nurturers of many, many things. And men and children are only a tiny part of that, a tiny part of a circle of life, a woman's circle and cycles of life that make up the sum total of her entire existence. Men and women are a tiny part of that, and sometimes, as we're discussing today, they don't need to be a part of that at all. Women are nurturers, but women are not nurturers of men. They are nurturers of many, many things. They are nurturers of the ideas and the creative life force, their creative muses, their dreams and their desires to pull these creative yearnings down from the heavens and actualize and manifest this through their being in the form of books or an online school or a community, a collective movement, records, songs, teachings. There are so many things that you can nurture in your life. And a man and children, as I said, are a tiny part of that. If I gave you an image of a circle that represents the sum total of your existence and the many cycles and evolutions that you will go through as a woman, the many transformations you will go through in every season of your life, there are many, many things contained within that image for you to nurture. And this idea that that nurturing energy is meant to go towards raising children and men is absolutely absurd. And it's part of this propaganda that I'm trying to wake women up from. It's absurd. There are so many things that you can create with your precious, beautiful life force that will actually reap beneficial results. Things that you can pour your energy into, and then a month or 5 months or a year or 2 years from now, you can look at all of the energetic investments that you've made, and you can see the fruits of your labor beginning to manifest in tangible physical form. Now, you tell me, how many times in your life have you poured into a man and got a result that made you sit back and think, oh yeah, that was such a great investment. I'm so glad I just spent the last year or 2 years of my precious, precious life giving my energy over to this useless individual who has no desire to better his existence. Something for you to ponder outside of this episode. Your energy as a woman is meant to flow outwards and build and expand, nurture the expansion of your reality, not to nurture others. The patriarchy, society, and men have made you believe that that is what your energy is for, and that in putting it there, you will derive the ultimate form of self-fulfillment and self-achievement. Not true. And it's incredibly dangerous to suggest this to a demographic of young women, a woman who has yet to discover her identity, her power, what truly makes her happy and brings her the deepest sense of fulfillment outside of traditional gender roles. The other thing that is very important for women to understand is that if you do not have clear values, clear expectations, hobbies, a career, ambitions of some sort, creative projects that you are pouring into, a spiritual calling, if you do not have things that you are nurturing and giving your energy to in your everyday existence, the moment you get into a relationship with a man, all of your creative life force is going to redirect into nurturing him, into becoming obsessed with upholding the relationship, with pouring into him so that you can get the love and the acceptance and the belonging and the nourishment back in return, which I'm sure you are well aware of rarely ever happens. And you have to pour so much in to a male in order to get just a tiny bit back. And if you do not have projects, ambitions, passions that you are pouring your creative life force into, then all of your energy is going to redirect itself and go into him. This is just the nature of how your energy operates as a woman. Your energy wants to pour outwards. It wants to build. It wants to nourish. It wants to create. And if you are not creating something of value and that makes you feel fulfilled and gives you that sense of achievement and self-satisfaction and pleasure in your life before you get into a relationship with a man, then all of your energy is going to redirect into him. Because your life force needs to go somewhere. And it takes a very, very strong woman to even have all of those things and get into a partnership and remain completely anchored to her own life path, to not be derailed or taken off path, distracted from building what she intended to build the moment she gets into a partnership. I say this from personal experience. I say this from personally having experienced, although I haven't had any long-term relationships because men fucking bore me and I can't be with someone for longer than 3 months. It's the longest time I've been with someone. I can't do it. I just can't. But even in that period of 3 months, women who listen to this and know my astrology placements understand me well. I'm a Mars dominant woman. Mars is one of my dominant planets, and I have like I think maybe 3 or 4 Aries all stuck to my Mars in very, very powerful degrees. So I don't have time to sit around and nurture anyone. I don't have time for it, except the women who pay me and who are part of my community. As someone who has experienced this, though, I know exactly what it's like to suddenly have someone in your life and you want to nurture the relationship, and you find that instead of, my typical daily routine is I wake up every day, I write about 2,000, 4,000 words. I spend about sometimes 3 hours in the morning just solely dedicated to writing book ideas, notes for this podcast episode, the teachings that I take women through in my course programs and my one-to-one immersion containers. The moment I have someone in my life, my energy naturally begins to slightly lean towards them. And I am someone who is very anchored in my own creative process and with my own life path. I know where I'm going. I know what I want. I know what I'm here to create. Even if a path is not always clear, I know those things. And yet, even still, with this non-negotiable relationship that I have with my artistry and my career path, even still, I have found myself going off track, going off course the moment I have a man in my life, because this is just what feminine energy does. It wants to amplify and nourish and bring beauty and activate the fullest potential of whatever is happening in your reality. So if that's a creative project or if it's a relationship, your energy is going to move between the two, or it's going to move entirely and completely into nurturing that man in a way that you do not want to be doing. Because as a woman, you can so quickly lose your sense of self. You can so quickly forget your priorities, get swept up in the emotions, the oxytocin, the dopamine, the serotonin that's being created through the emotional bond that you have with another human being. So it's so important that you are anchored. You are anchored to your own life path, but you are also so clear about your values and your ambitions and your desires and your intentions for what you are creating in your life. Because if you are not, your energy is going to redirect into that relationship, and then you could waste a good year or more, however long you are with that person, a good year or more, squandering your energy and being pulled away from your life path. And you do not want this to happen to you. You do not want it to happen, because you're going to waste so much time then having to heal and be angry and be grieving about all the energy that you put into this relationship that didn't work out. Another thing to think about. I hope you're taking notes. And it's so easy for this to happen when you're in a relationship with a man, because your desperation to be seen and to be loved and to be protected and to be provided for, all of those inner child parts that were never nurtured, nourished, seen, acknowledged, heard, all of those inevitably come to the surface when you're partnering with someone. And they are going to take over your reality, right? They are going to take over your life. And it's going to distract you from recognizing all of the paths that are available to you through which you can actually heal and work with these parts, or further your ambitions, further your career, make money outside of a relationship. Because now you are going to become so fixated on getting all of those unmet needs met, the unmet financial needs, the unmet inner child needs, the unmet feminine needs of simply wanting to be sexually nourished and met by a man and loved deeply. You're going to become fixated on getting all of those needs met. And I will say this, sometimes it's actually a good thing that those desires and those needs are a little bit repressed within our shadow and within our being, sometimes it's a good thing. The reason being is that sometimes you're in an era of your life where you need to focus on making money. You need to focus on being practical, pragmatic, strategic, logical, disciplined, focused on actualizing your goals without any distractions around you. And if you're having all of these unmet emotional needs suddenly disrupt your life path, your life calling, erupting out of you, overflowing, okay, it's a very distracting thing. It's a very dysregulating and ungrounding thing to experience. And these are the things that women don't consider when they're getting into a relationship, and they really need to start thinking about more carefully. Do you really want all of those unmet needs and desires? And I'm speaking specifically to women who are ambitious and have big life goals and aspirations. Do you really want all of those unmet needs and that pain of not being met as a child and as a woman, not having been sexually nourished or treated with the love and the sensitivity that you deserved? Do you really want to bring all of that to the surface at this time in your life over the next 3-5 years? Or is the focus and the goal to really nail your creative calling, your spiritual path, sort out your financial situation? Sometimes we need to make these sacrifices. Yes, sometimes if you can find someone and you can journey with them and have that relationship with them, beautiful. But that's very unusual. That's very unusual. And I'm sorry to be cynical, but it's not going to happen for most women. Because the men that you're trying to partner with to begin with are not emotionally abundant within themselves. So you're going to this person and trying to get all of those needs and desires met. And what I would advise you to do instead is to become self-focused. Coming back to the original point of this episode, to become self-serving, to nourish and nurture those parts within you in a way that feels titrated. Titrated, by the way, means gradual and slow, where you can go at your own pace, where you're not having to consistently meet new shadow aspects of yourself every other week because you're in a relationship with someone that's inevitably going to bring that out of you. I think the thing that shocks me probably the most about the world we live in is how we have raised girls and women to be so sedated and unaware of the power that they have deliberately. We want girls and women to be an open and unending source of love and abundance and compassion and forgiveness. To tolerate and forgive the poor behavior of men over and over and over again, no matter how much of their own soul, their own identity it costs them. We have quite literally conditioned girls and women to be desensitized from the amount of abuse they experience from men, so that they don't even recognize the abuse anymore because they just think it's normal. How many times have you had conversations with your mother or your grandmother or women in your life who would say things and you'd say, "You're being abused. That man is abusing you." And they wouldn't, no recognition. No recognition, because we've deliberately trained girls and women to be as desensitized and unconscious and unaware as possible. I want you to understand that a sophisticated, civilized society would never set its women up to fail. It would not deliberately encourage women in the direction of their demise and their downfall through partnering with men, through being subservient to men, through contributing to the continuation of the structures and the paradigm that we're currently existing in without questioning it, without questioning the benefit of it as far as women's well-being is concerned. It's so easy to assume that the people around you, especially your elders, are giving you the type of advice on behalf of ensuring that you are safe and well taken care of, and that you get to live your most fulfilling and empowered existence. But that's not the case. The advice that you get from the world around you is live the smallest and most mediocre possible existence that you can as a woman. Don't dream outside of what you have been told is for you, which is to settle down and partner with a man and have his children, and then please just shut up. Just shut up and be happy with what you have. The people around you, unfortunately, think that is normal. That you, as a woman, the closest physical manifestation of God that there is on this earth, should be happy partnering with your inferior. Why do you need more than that? We don't live in a civilized, sophisticated society. I hope you know that. We live in an intellectually backwards, spiritually deprived society that has no awareness or connection to a higher state of being that centers women and places and prioritizes the well-being of women above all else, as it should, because women are ensuring the continuation of a human race. I often feel a deep-rooted frustration that I have to sit down and explain topics that I have understood since I was 6 years old. I feel a deep sense of frustration that I have to explain it as if I'm speaking a different language to the vast majority of women and men. I feel as if I am an alien visiting from the future who has been dragged back in time to Earth in its current state of demise. Dragged back in time and forced to incarnate into a human body to bring a certain intelligence and wisdom from the future. Except it's not even from the future, because the things I'm speaking about right now were the principles upon which matriarchal societies and civilizations were founded. But I often do feel that I am an alien that has been pulled back from the future to visit Earth, to offer foundational principles and knowledge that represents what a civilized and sophisticated society would look like. And that sort of society would not be doing what we are currently doing to women. I think that higher forms of intelligence, aliens, whatever you want to call them, I think they look at the human race in absolute bafflement and confusion as to how we have functioned for so long within these structures, patriarchal structures, the way that we treat women as second-rate citizens. I think they're watching us with absolute bemusement and confusion as to how we have functioned like this for so long. Because, I repeat, a civilized, sophisticated society would never treat its women this way. I want you to know that the way we view women as resources, as objects to sexualize, to use for the benefit of men, nothing about this is normal. So the final point that I want to make on today's episode is that as a woman, you should really make your life as interesting and as rich and as fulfilling and as multidimensional, to the extent that you don't even notice that you don't have a relationship with a man. You're not even craving it to begin with, because you're too busy falling in love with your own life. And if you do meet someone, great, amazing. But if things don't work out, it doesn't matter, because you have this rich, diverse, interesting life to return to. You're not going to feel like you've lost some core part of who you are and a core part of your identity because of a relationship breakup. Because your life is not revolving around having or keeping a man. It revolves around loving and nurturing and empowering and educating yourself and creating the most rich and diverse and adventurous and joyful experience that you can for yourself, that is fully available to you if you just give yourself the opportunity to live a little bit more freely and to stop listening to the regurgitated narrative that society wants you to endorse, not for your benefit, but for the benefit of men and for the benefit of continuing to uphold the structures of society as they currently are. You cannot function as a woman when you are pouring into everyone else but yourself. You have to make yourself the priority. You have to cultivate the self-esteem, the self-worth, the confidence, the interest in bettering your own existence so that you are anchored, as I said earlier, you're anchored to your life path strongly enough that nothing and no one can come and uproot you. And I'm not talking about just a relationship, I'm talking about nothing outside of you can come and uproot you or disrupt or distract you from the connection and the relationship, the development of a relationship that you are cultivating with yourself. I'm going to leave the episode on that because it has been long and I have many other things to say, but it's a big topic. I'll probably do a part 2 at some point. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to this episode. Please do remember to share this episode with other women who might need it. Don't forget to follow me on the Spotify app. And please do make sure that you always visit the show notes of every single episode because I have dropped links for my free creative course, my free 28-day creative course for women, Manifest Your Life Path with Power and Purpose. There are also options for women who want to work with me on a one-to-one basis, women who are looking to develop their creative aspirations, get clear on their career path, how to develop their creative projects. Maybe you're someone who is looking to start a brand or a business and monetize your creative work, or maybe you're just a woman who's looking to develop her confidence and really empower herself right now. These are all of the themes that I guide women through inside of my 3-month feminine leadership immersion, and also my business immersion for women. And I also do one-to-one work. So if that's something you'd like to learn more about, do check out the links in the show note. You can book a free call with either me or my sales assistant, Sabrina, and you can talk to either one of us in person to learn more about how my work can support you with your empowerment journey and your creative and career aspirations. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to this episode, and I will see you next time.